So there I was mid-bite my dinner when my son-in-law, let's call him Sheldon, because of course his name is Sheldon, decided to laugh and ask, "What's it like to be a loser?" Charming, really. Everyone at the table laughed along like he'd just delivered the punchline of the century. Except me. I just smiled. Then, with all the calm of a man about to drop a nuclear bomb into a family dinner, I asked, "How does it feel to know this loser won't be paying your bills anymore?" You could have heard a pin drop. Or, better yet, the sound of Sheldon's ego deflating. His face turned paler than skim milk, and just like that, the mahogany dining table transformed into a battlefield. But let's rewind. "Retirement must be nice," Sheldon had said earlier, swirling his overpriced wine, the same bottle I brought as a gift, mind you, because why not drink someone else's generosity while you insult them? That's efficiency. Now, to set the scene, the table mahogany, polished within an inch of its life, candles flickering away like they were auditioning for a period drama. Caroline, my daughter, poor thing, had outdone herself. Prime rib, crystal holders, the whole production, all in celebration of Sheldon's big promotion to regional sales manager, which, in corporate terms, means he gets to boss around other people who are also miserable. Truly an achievement. "It takes a younger mind to succeed these days," he smirked, practically reclining on his throne at the head of the table. My throne, by the way. He stole that too. Lovely chap. Caroline tried to defend me. Bless her, mentioning my engineering career, the infrastructure I designed still standing, unlike my son-in-law's dignity. But Sheldon, with the grace of a man who thinks Wi-Fi is a personality, waved it off. And then my granddaughter Emma, sweet little 9-year-old Emma, piped up, "Grandpa built me a treehouse." Innocent, beautiful, heartwarming. To which Sheldon, patron saint of condescension, patted her head and replied, "That's sweet, honey. But real men provide for their families." Real men, apparently, buy BMWs they can't afford and then beg for help with the insurance. Who knew? Caroline tried to change the subject, but Sheldon wasn't done. Oh no, he was high on Cabernet and his own reflection. Now that I'm making real money, 6 figures, Mark. He actually said that like it was a TED Talk. Maybe it's time everyone pulled their own weight. Translation: thanks for paying for my life, old man. But now that I've got a shinier payslip, I'd like you to crawl back under your rock. He even gestured at Caroline. My daughter, his wife. She's been out of the workforce too long. Maybe it's time she rejoined the real world. Caroline went pale. I nearly applauded. Honestly, the man's sense of timing is impeccable if you're trying to destroy your marriage during dessert. Then came the piece de resistance. When was the last time you contributed anything meaningful? Sheldon asked, his chest puffed out like a pigeon on steroids. How does it feel to be a failure? Oh, I'll tell you how it feels. It feels like finishing your prime rib in peace while dropping the single sentence that unravels 15 years of family economics. How does it feel, I said, to know this failure won't be paying your bills anymore? Silence. Stunned, horrified, glorious silence. Sheldon's face collapsed in on itself like a badly built souffle. Caroline covered her mouth. Emma cried. Tommy dropped his fork like we'd just announced the Titanic was sinking again. And me? I kept eating. Because if you're going to nuke family dinner, you might as well do it with proper table manners. I left with dignity. Kissed the kids. Thanked Caroline. Coat on, out the door. The cool March air was kinder than the atmosphere inside. Drove home in silence, hands steady, though in my head I was alternating between "you absolute idiot, Sheldon," and "why didn't I do this 10 years ago?" Back home, I headed straight to my study. The room smelled of furniture polish and regret. Brass lamp on. Filing cabinets lined up like little monuments to my financial martyrdom. Every mortgage payment, every tuition bill, every shiny red medical folder, color-coded misery. Martha, my wife, had died in 2008, and since then I played banker, safety net, and unpaid babysitter for a family that still thought the money grew on Sheldon's family tree. Well, not anymore. The first mortgage payment I ever covered, £2,800. February. Another £2,800 in March. Rinse and repeat for 15 bloody years. Like clockwork. My mahogany desk, which, let's be honest, has seen more unpaid bills than actual writing, was now covered in neatly stacked evidence of my stupidity. That's 2,800 pounds a month for 180 months. Do the maths. Roughly £500,000. On a house I don't even live in. Meanwhile, I'm in my little two-bed, still congratulating myself when the boiler makes it through winter without dying. Next folder, cars. Sheldon's BMW lease, because God forbid the man drive anything that doesn't scream midlife crisis. And Caroline's SUV loan, £200 a month for 8 years. That's another £115,200. So he could look important in traffic, and she could ferry the kids to piano lessons in style. Oh, but we're not finished. Not even close. Private school tuition. Because apparently, the local comprehensive just wasn't good enough for little Tommy and Emma. Entire drawers stuffed with receipts. Swimming pools, foreign languages, summer camps where the children could learn the vital life skill of archery. £24,000 a year for 16 years. £192,000. To ensure my grandchildren grow up well-rounded, fluent in Spanish, and thoroughly entitled. Then came the medical bills. Insurance premiums when Sheldon was between jobs. Translation. Fired again. Dental work. Emergency rooms. Therapy sessions for Caroline after that near divorce. £8,000 a year. 15 years running. Another £120,000. Honestly, at this point, I could have just funded the NHS myself. And tucked away behind the insurance papers, like little bombs waiting to detonate. Holidays. Disney World 2015. European Cruise 2018. Aspen ski trips. Because, yes, nothing screams financial stability like skiing holidays when your father-in-law is paying your bloody mortgage. Miscellaneous support? Oh, just a casual £45,000. Kitchen renovations, Christmas presents, emergency car repairs, basically funding their Instagram lifestyle while I canceled my own gym membership because £20 a month felt extravagant. The grand total? £976,200. Nearly £1,000,000. On a family who thought money fell from the sky, specifically from the sky above my bank account. I sat back in my leather chair, cracked naturally, because who can afford new furniture when there's a BMW to lease? And thought about Martha, my wife. Before she died, I promised her, don't worry about Caroline. I'll make sure she's secure. Well, Martha, she's been so secure, she's practically bubble-wrapped. And me? I'm the idiot paying for the packaging. Back then, Caroline thanked me. Weekly phone calls. Homemade biscuits. The kids over every Sunday. Gratitude. Remember that word? It's like common sense. Apparently went extinct around 2012. Somewhere along the way, gratitude turned into entitlement. My help became less thank you and more, well, obviously. I pulled out my own financial statements for comparison. The modest little retirement account. The 2-bedroom instead of the lakefront house I wanted. The 15-year-old truck in the garage. The travel brochures I collected like a sad hobby, knowing I'd never actually use them. The woman from church who stopped inviting me to dinner after I declined one too many times because, surprise, Caroline needed bailing out again. Nearly £1,000,000. Gone. My life savings, my dreams, my peace of mind, all funneled into the Sheldon Family Fantasy Fund. By 10:30 the next morning, I'd had enough. Time for interesting conversations with the bank. Translation. 15 years of financial charity officially switching off. National Bank, this is Jennifer. How may I help you? I need to cancel some automatic payments, I said, using the same calm tone I once used when explaining structural engineering to idiots who thought bridges just built themselves. 12 minutes later, she'd dismantled the first of my shackles. Mortgage, canceled. Check mark. Sheldon's BMW. 3 transfers, 1 supervisor, canceled. Insurance, utilities, tuition, all falling like dominoes. By 11:15 a.m., I crossed off 8 items, each confirmation number neatly recorded in my notebook like little tombstones for their lifestyle. At 11:47, my phone rang. Caroline, Dad, something weird happened. The bank said our mortgage payment bounced. That doesn't make sense because you assumed I'd keep paying forever. Silence. You could feel the wire snap. What do you mean? She asked, her voice squeaking up an octave like she was 12 again. Exactly what I said last night. I'm no longer covering your expenses. But Dad, you can't just... I can. I did. Mortgage, insurance, school, all discontinued as of this morning. I could hear her breathing quicken. This isn't funny. We'll lose the house. Then you'll need to figure out how to pay for yourselves. Line went dead. 12 more calls to make. Utilities were easy. The school accounting department didn't even bother asking questions. By noon, their carefully curated life was beginning to implode, and I hadn't even finished my coffee. Caroline called back at 12:23. Now her voice carried real fear. Dad, please. The school called. The insurance company. Even the electric company. They're saying payments were declined because you canceled. Yes, because I canceled. For my accounts. Her whisper could have frozen air. Your accounts? Did you think these payments materialized from thin air, Caroline? A magical money fairy fluttering down your chimney every month. Another silence. Then the killer line. But we never asked you to. No, they never asked because they never had to. I just did it. Out of love. Out of duty. Out of sheer bloody stupidity. At 12:31, the phone rang again. Sheldon, trying to sound authoritative, which is hilarious coming from a man who needs a family bailout to pay for his loafers. Mark, whatever game you're playing needs to stop right now. No game, Sheldon. Just reality. You can't destroy our family because your feelings got hurt at dinner. I almost laughed. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply stopping my financial support. And just like that, 15 years of quiet martyrdom ended with a few phone calls and one glorious... You want to know how it feels to be a failure, Sheldon? Well, here's the free trial version. Figure out your own bills. His silence on the other, and lasted longer than most of his employment contracts. The final call on my list was to my financial advisor. Monday morning. We'd be redirecting those payments, the same ones that had been fueling Sheldon's champagne lifestyle, into my tragically underfed retirement fund. Imagine that. My money, for me, revolutionary. At 1:15 p.m., the familiar whine of Sheldon's BMW, you know, the one I paid for, broke the quiet. He slammed the door with the drama of a soap opera star, while Caroline clutched her handbag like contained the last oxygen tank on Earth. They marched up my path radiating moral superiority, which was hilarious considering their combined bank balance could barely cover a Tesco meal deal. I opened the door before they could knock. Please do come in, I said, because apparently sarcasm is genetic at this point. Sheldon positioned himself in the middle of my living room like Napoleon claiming territory he hadn't earned. This ridiculous tantrum ends now. You'll call those banks and restore the payments. No, I won't, I said cheerfully. His face went crimson. You can't just cut us off without warning. There are legal obligations. Verbal contracts. Splendid. Show me the contract where I agreed to fund your midlife crisis forever. Caroline stepped forward, eyes red and trembling voice at the ready. Dad, think about what Mom would want. Remember what you promised at her funeral. Ah, yes, the nuclear option. Martha, I've been expecting that card. I promised to help until you got stable. 15 years and nearly £1 million later, you're wobblier than a toddler on roller skates. Caroline blinked. $1 million. I walked to my desk, pulled out my notebook, and presented the figures like a very bitter accountant. Pound £9.76, 200, mortgage assistance, cars, insurance, school tuition, medical bills, holidays. Would you like me to break it down by category? Color-coded if you fancy. Sheldon faltered briefly. 3 whole seconds of silence, which in his case is basically a miracle. Then, that's impossible. We never asked for that much. Exactly. You never asked. You just expected. Caroline crumpled onto my sofa. But the children, Tommy's baseball, Emma's dance classes, I'll keep paying those. Directly. No more money passing through you two like water through a sieve. You can't divide the family like that. Sheldon barked. We're a team. Teams require respect. When was the last time either of you said thank you? The silence was louder than a jet engine. Caroline's sobs filled it, messy and childlike. The same sound she made at 15 when she'd failed her driving test. I didn't know it was so much, she said. I thought you wanted to help. I thought it made you happy. It did, I admit it, until it stopped being appreciated and started being demanded, until Sheldon here turned into the world's least grateful parasite. Sheldon paced my carpet like a zoo animal that's just noticed feeding time's been canceled. Fine. You want gratitude? Thank you. There. Now restore the payments. Sorry, Sheldon. Gratitude doesn't work retroactively. It's not nectar points. For the first time since storming into my home, he looked genuinely nervous. What exactly do you want from us? Oh, nothing much. Just for you to live within your means. To let my grandchildren see their parents actually earn something instead of pretending life is one long free buffet. And to treat me like a father, not an ATM with arthritis. Caroline lifted her face, streaked with mascara. But what if we can't? What if we lose everything? Then I said, you'll finally know what failure feels like. Congratulations, you'll have caught up to me. The air in the room went solid. Even the shadows stopped moving, as if waiting for the encore. Sheldon straightened, puffing himself back into salesman mode. We'll see about this. There are lawyers who specialize in elder financial abuse. I nearly laughed. Oh, please call them. I'd love to explain how I've been financially abused for 15 years. They left wordlessly, Sheldon slamming the BMW into life with enough aggression to shave a decade off its engine. I stood at the window, watching them disappear, my hand shaking, not from fear, from release. Silence filled the house, flooding it like water through a cracked dam. I collapsed into the leather armchair Martha had given me for our 20th anniversary, staring at the wedding photo on the mantel. Caroline radiant. Sheldon, bow tie askew, looking actually humble. Martha, glowing alive. That was 2007. Back then, Sheldon drove a 10-year-old Honda and called me sir. Said he'd take good care of Caroline, that he didn't much, but was working to build a life worthy of her. I believed him. God help me, I believe him. 2 years later, Martha was gone. Cancer, for brutal months. Caroline broken, Sheldon drowning, and me promising at her funeral, don't worry, I'll help until you're stable. Until you're stable. Not forever. Back then, the gratitude had been real. Handwritten thank you notes. Weekend visits. Phone calls twice a week. Caroline bringing the children. Saying through tears, Dad, you're saving our lives. We'll pay you back when things improve. 6 months, Sheldon said. Just until the promotion. Just until the car's paid off. Just until kindergarten. Just until turned permanent. By 2012, the thank you note stopped. The Sunday dinners turned into Sheldon dropping by to drink my beer and moan about his boss. Gratitude had expired, replaced by entitlement. And me, I kept paying. Until now. Caroline's grateful little phone calls. You know, the thank you so much, Dad. We'd never survive without your variety. Slowly evolved into monthly invoices. Dad, can you cover Emma's dance classes? Only $200 a month. Translation. It's your fault she won't be the next ballerina if you say no. Dad, the kids need new computers for school. Translation. MacBooks, obviously. We wouldn't want them traumatized by something as common as Windows. And my personal favorite. Our vacation rental fell through. Can you help with another place? Because nothing screams emergency like the inability to sip cocktails in Maui. First the word please disappeared. Then thank you. Then even can you became you need to. By 2018, I wasn't so much a father as a malfunctioning ATM that occasionally sighed. Sheldon, meanwhile, strutted around neighborhood barbecues bragging about his financial discipline. His words, not mine. The man genuinely thought refinancing his ego counted as wealth management. Neighbors admired his shiny BMW, and he accepted the compliments as though he'd hand-built the engine in his garage. I wanted to scream, "Yes, Janet, it's a lovely car. I pay $650 a month to park it in his driveway." Caroline, bless her, started defending him when I suggested they attempt, just for fun, to manage their expenses independently. She snapped, "Dad, you don't understand modern family dynamics. Sheldon's under enormous pressure. The children have routines." Ah, yes, the sacred routines. Dance class, private school, and that costly habit of living 20 grand beyond their income. Utterly irreplaceable. By Christmas, I was practically invisible. Sheldon toasted his hard work providing for the family. Caroline plastered social media with hashtags like #blessed and #family goals, as if my monthly payments were sponsored by God. Meanwhile, I sat alone with a stale mince pie, staring at thank you cards from 2009. The irony was so thick you could butter it. But sitting there in the dusk, I realized something. Martha wouldn't have wanted the circus. She'd have wanted dignity, respect, possibly for me to stop bankrolling Sheldon's midlife crisis on wheels. Then came the week. Oh, yes, the week when the dominoes toppled. Monday, Caroline called, voice trembling with panic. "Dad, the bank says our mortgage failed. There's a $75 penalty. They want $2,875 by tomorrow or foreclosure starts." I said nothing. Silence is underrated. It's basically free therapy. By noon, Sheldon's precious BMW lease company had left 2 voicemails about their missed $650 payment. Caroline's SUV bounced too, with a penalty. Insurance lapsed by 3 p.m. The financial Titanic had hit the iceberg. I didn't even need popcorn. It was glorious. Tuesday, Caroline again. Sheldon yelling in the background. She whispered, "I applied at Target, Walmart, 3 restaurants. They're offering $12 an hour. That's barely $2,000 a month." For the first time in 15 years, she was doing maths. Actual survival-level maths. I nearly framed the moment. Wednesday, I drove past the children's school. Tommy and Emma stood outside like little Dickens orphans, while tuition-cleared kids waltzed past them. The school wanted $4,800 immediately, or they'd be out by Friday. Tragic, almost poetic. Mrs. Payne, my nosy neighbor, mentioned hearing Ray's voices at Caroline's. Apparently, Sheldon had discovered credit cards have limits. Who knew? Thursday, Caroline again. Third call, now reduced to begging. "Dad, please. I've had 5 interviews. They all want references. I haven't worked since 2009. Humility, actual humility, rare as hen's teeth." Sheldon tried to pay the mortgage, but then realized they couldn't cover food, electricity, or petrol. So he canceled it. Stellar financial planning. Perhaps he can give a seminar. Caroline's voice was tiny. "I think we're going to lose everything." "Yes," I said. "You probably are." She cried like she did when her teenage boyfriend dumped her in '03. Only this time, no ice cream would fix it. Friday, I reviewed my new financial plan. Instead of their bills, I was now funding the European river cruise Martha, and I never took. Cooking classes in Italy. Photography in Scotland. Imagine money spent on me. Scandalous. At 11:30, Sheldon called. Gone was the bravado. "Mark, we need to talk." "We've talked," I said. "No, as adults. About fixing this." "You mean how I can fix your situation?" Long pause. "Yes. Well, points for honesty." I told him to bring the family over Sunday. "What should we prepare to discuss?" he asked. "Reality," I said, and hung up. By Monday, the gossip mill was grinding. Dave from the hardware store rang. "Mark, I heard Sheldon at Murphy's bar saying you cut them off out of spite. He's calling it financial abandonment of innocent grandchildren." "Yes, Dave, because a true villain here is a pensioner who's only forked out $976,000 over 15 years. Practically Dickensian cruelty, isn't it?" By Tuesday, Caroline had roped in Martha's sister, Janet, who rang me with a voice like vinegar. "Caroline says you've abandoned them in their greatest need. The children don't understand why Grandpa doesn't love them anymore. I asked if she mentioned the $1,000,000 I'd already spent. Janet fell silent, probably calculating whether she should start asking me for money too. Apparently, I'm the villain now. Yes, the man who funneled nearly $1,000,000 into his daughter's lifestyle is suddenly the heartless monster who doesn't want to help anymore. Proof? Oh, I've got proof. Spreadsheets, receipts, bank statements, color-coded, index, probably enough to qualify as a light bedtime read. But facts don't stand a chance once emotional blackmail enters the chat. The next morning, Emma called me. My sweet granddaughter, armed with lines rehearsed so tightly I could almost hear Sheldon whispering stage directions in the background. Grandpa, Mummy says we might lose our house because you don't want to help us anymore. Did we do something wrong? Oh, yes. Sweetheart, you personally defaulted on a mortgage while running a Ponzi scheme from your dollhouse. But of course, I kept my voice gentle. You didn't do anything wrong. Would you like ice cream this afternoon? She hesitated. Mummy says you might say no to everything now. No to ice cream? Never. Even dictators don't ban dessert. We went to Dairy Queen. By the second spoonful, her scripted sadness vanished. She babbled about her art project, while I tried not to think about Caroline's calculating eyes watching from the window when I dropped her off. Honestly, she looked like a Bond villain rehearsing her next move. Then Wednesday rolled in with all the subtlety of a fire alarm. Nancy Morrison, my neighbor of 30 years, ambushed me in the middle of the grocery store. Mark Bennett, I'm ashamed of you. Cutting off your own daughter when she needs you most. What would Martha think? Her voice carried across 3 aisles, between the frozen peas and the toilet roll. People actually stopped their trolleys to watch. I half expected someone to sell popcorn. I smiled. Martha would think 15 years and nearly $1,000,000 was generous enough. Nancy blinked. $1,000,000? I started reciting. $9.76, $200. Mortgage, cars, tuition, insurance, medical bills, holidays. Would you like me to send you the receipts, Nancy? Other shoppers gawked. Nancy's face turned the exact shade of beetroot she was clutching. Caroline never mentioned. Caroline mentions only what benefits the Caroline show. I said, end of performance. Curtain down. By evening, Dave rang again. Sheldon was back at Murphy's pub, playing his favorite role, the tragic son-in-law. Unfortunately, Bill Henderson was there. Remember Bill? The car salesman who leased them that BMW. Bill apparently asked, how did you afford a $60,000 car on your salary? Sheldon flailed, tried to spin. Bill, bless him, reminded the entire bar that I had co-signed. You could have heard the silence all the way down Main Street. Thursday, Tom from my old engineering days called. Heard the gossip, wanted a fact check. I told him the truth. 15 years of bankrolling. No thanks. No acknowledgement. Just Christmas toast where Sheldon congratulated himself for providing. Tom gave a low whistle. That's cold, Mark. Yes, Tom. Absolute sub-zero. Friday evening, I was watering my roses, the one luxury left of me. When Mrs. Payne wandered up, her daughter had heard parents gossiping at school pickup. Apparently, my reputation was on trial. Some people are questioning Sheldon's story, she said delicately. I shrugged. People are entitled to opinions. She smiled softly. But everyone knows you've been very generous to those children. Generous. I echoed. Understatement of the century. Saturday. Caroline herself phoned. Shrill, panicked, cornered. Dad. People are asking uncomfortable questions about money and documentation. You need to stop spreading lies about us. Caroline, I haven't spread anything. I've just answered questions honestly. You're destroying our reputation. No, dear. I've simply stopped subsidizing the fiction. Click. Line dead. Sunday loomed. The big family meeting. Except it didn't happen. Because Monday morning brought a plot twist. Foreclosure notice. Dave spotted on their door. 30 days to pay $8,625. 3 months missed, plus penalties. Quite the family heirloom. By Tuesday, Caroline's BMW was gone, replaced by a tired Honda Civic. Sheldon was seen at the dealership looking like a man who'd just been told the bar stopped serving alcohol. Mrs. Payne, of course, noted how much cheaper the payments must be. Thank you, Mrs. Payne, local economist. Wednesday, I walked into the grocery store and nearly walked out again. There was Caroline, wearing a blue vest and name tag, scanning items with all the enthusiasm of a prisoner on kitchen duty. Paper or plastic? She muttered without eye contact. Her cheeks flamed when Mrs. Patterson recognized her. After her shift, I watched her trudge to the Honda. Shoulders slumped. The whole middle-class dream leaking out her like air from a punctured Lilo. That evening, Tommy rang. Grandpa, Mum and Dad are fighting again. Dad says Mum's job doesn't pay enough. Mum says Dad never made enough either. Then they said mean things about you. Mean things? About me? Shocking. But then Mum cried and said maybe they ruined it themselves. Gold star, Caroline. First accurate statement in years. Thursday morning, I passed their house and heard shouting through the walls. Something about peanuts for wages, pride, 15 years of handouts. Then silence. Door slam. Sheldon's Honda peeling off. Later, Emma came round. Her usual sparkle gone. Grandpa, why is everything different now? I gave her cookies and milk. What feels different, sweetheart? Mum's always tired and sad. Dad's always angry. They talk about losing the house. Tommy says we might have to change schools. I stroked her hair, thinking, welcome to adulthood, darling. It's mostly Bill's bad moods and realizing you've been lied to. By Friday evening, I was happily minding my own business. Book in hand, slippers on, enjoying the thrilling sport of not bailing out my adult children for once. Then the doorbell rang. Of course, because apparently peace and quiet is for people without offspring. There stood Sheldon, alone. No Caroline to play translator, no smug grin, no corporate armor. Just a wrinkled shirt, drooping tie, and a face that looked like it had been run through a tumble dryer set on regret. Mark, I need to talk to you. Man to man. I nearly laughed. Man to man? This from the bloke who once asked me if a hammer was left-handed? But fine. I let him in. He sank into the same chair where, only 2 weeks ago, he demanded money like some entitled prince of suburbia. This time, his hands were clasped like a schoolboy waiting to be told off. The foreclosure is real, he muttered. 30 days. Caroline's working 40 hours a week for £13 and 50 pence an hour, which in reality comes to about a tenner and a packet of crisps after taxes. I'm bringing home £5,800 a month. Mortgage is £2,875. We can't make it work. We never could. Could we? Without you. No, Sheldon. You couldn't. Shocking revelation, I know. Next you'll tell me water is wet. He even attempted humility. I never earned anything, did I? The house, the cars, the schools, none of it was really mine. I sipped my tea. You don't say. Then he asked the golden question. Is there a way back from this? Not back to how things were, but forward to something better. Oh, look, character development. Took 15 years and foreclosure notice. But hey, progress. Saturday, another knock at my door. Honestly, I should start charging admission. Caroline this time, in her glamorous new uniform, a crumpled blue supermarket vest, tears, exhaustion, and the faint smell of reduced bread rolls. Dad, please, we need to talk about Tommy and Emma. She collapsed into the same chair Sheldon had recently sweated all over, for days until foreclosure. The kids are terrified. Emma had nightmares. Tommy keeps asking if we're really losing the house. I asked the obvious. What do you want from me, Caroline? She gave me the greatest hits. Stability, schooling, Emma not crying into her pillow every night. You know, basic parenting goals she's outsourcing to me. Then came her Oscar moment. I've been working 40 hours a week on my feet, scanning groceries for people who used to be my friends. Touching. I nearly got her a medal. Instead, I offered terms. I'll pay the children's school tuition directly. Clothes, medical, sports, Music lessons covered. College funds too. But no mortgage, no cars, no insurance, no lifestyle luxuries. You and Sheldon will live within your actual means. Shocking concept, I know. Try to breathe. Her face brightened. And then I added the kicker. Oh, and I want public acknowledgement. 15 years. 976,000 pounds. A letter to the newspaper. A Facebook post dripping in gratitude. Face-to-face apologies to the people you've lied to in the last fortnight. The full humiliation package. Call it character building. Her face crumpled again. Sheldon will never agree to that. His pride. Well then, I said, his pride is clearly more important than his children's stability. Good luck with that. I gave her 48 hours. Offer expires after that. No refunds, no exchanges. At the door, she turned back, voice soft. Dad, thank you for still caring about Tommy and Emma. I never stopped caring. I told her. I just stopped funding the circus. And as her old Honda wheezed away down the street, I sat back, watching the evening news. Somewhere across town, Sheldon was probably reheating his dignity in the microwave, and Caroline was about to drop the biggest ultimatum of their marriage. Honestly, if I'd written this as a soap opera, people would say it was too far-fetched. So there they were in the kitchen, calculator glowing like some oracle of doom. Caroline delivered my terms like she was reading out a death sentence. He'll pay for the kids' school, clothes, medical expenses, activities, even set up college funds. Sheldon lit up like a Christmas tree. That's fantastic. When does he restart the mortgage payments? He doesn't. And just like that, brightness gone. You could almost hear the sad trombone. That's impossible, he whined. You know our expenses. Yes, Sheldon. Expenses. That mystical curse that happens when you insist on living champagne dreams on a lemonade salary. And he wants public apologies, Caroline whispered. Public apologies. Imagine the horror. Sheldon went from red to white, to a sort of mottled beetroot shade. He wants me to humiliate myself? Admit I've been what? A charity case. Darling, you've been Exhibit A in the Charity Cases of Suburbia Museum for 15 years. Don't act surprised. Caroline finally grew a spine. Sheldon, he spent nearly $1 million on us. To which Sheldon replied, essentially, yes, but how does that affect me? From upstairs, the kids chimed in with perfect comic timing. Mom? Dad? Why are you yelling? Are you fighting about Grandpa again? Yes, children. Nothing screams childhood nostalgia like overhearing your parents argue about who's more entitled to free money. Caroline went upstairs to mop up the tears, leaving Sheldon alone with a foreclosure notice and a calculator that couldn't lie politely enough to make their maths work. Spoiler. You can't stretch 6,900 pounds a month to cover champagne, caviar, and 2 entitled adults with a taste for German engineering. By Monday, the Honda, their humble chariot of shame, rolled into my driveway carrying the entire family. Through the window, I spotted Sheldon looking like a man who'd spent the night arguing with the ceiling and losing. Caroline knocked. Children in tow. The human shields of guilt. We need to accept your offer. All of it. Sheldon stood there like a defendant awaiting sentencing, and frankly, I was tempted to don a wig and gavel for dramatic effect. The bank was breathing down their necks. Foreclosure at 3 p.m. unless 8,625 pounds magically appeared. Spoiler, it hadn't. Emma tugged my sleeve. Grandpa, are we really going to lose our house? Not if I can help it. Sweetheart, though technically, you should be directing that question to the 2 adults who thought Instagram hashtags counted as financial planning. Then Sheldon, in a shocking twist, decided to speak like an actual human. He walked the mantel, studied the photo of Martha, and, wait for it, confessed. 15 years ago, you offered temporary help. I turned it into permanent support. I bragged about the cars, the house, the holidays, as if I'd earned them. I let the kids think you were just being generous, when really you were keeping us afloat. Well done, Sheldon. Full marks for honesty. Pity it took financial ruin, and the death of your BMW to get there. Caroline joined in, her eyes moist with belated sincerity. I treated your generosity like inheritance, like I deserved it. I'm sorry. And just like that, the children had their grand plot twist moment. Tommy looked up wide-eyed. Grandpa paid for my baseball? Yes, Tommy. Every home run you hit was sponsored by Grandpa's dwindling retirement account. Surprise. Emma whispered, "Why didn't you tell us?" Because, darling, your parents were too busy maintaining the illusion that Daddy's PowerPoint presentations at work were buying your dance shoes. I leaned forward because this was my moment. If I help you today, things will change. I'll pay for the children directly. School, clothes, activities, college funds. But never again your mortgage, cars, or adult toys. You'll live within what you actually earn. Revolutionary, I know. Sheldon nodded, the sound of broken pride echoing around the room. But I wasn't finished. I want public acknowledgement. A letter to the community newspaper. Social media posts dripping with gratitude. Face-to-face apologies to the neighbors you've lied to. And it all happens this week. Caroline nodded. Sheldon nodded too, jaw so tight you could crack walnuts on it. One more thing. I added, because why stop when you got them on the ropes? Monthly family dinners. Here, not to report your finances, but to remember family means respect, not entitlement. And with that, the verdict was in. Sheldon, guilty of chronic freeloading. Sentence. Humility, accountability, and meatloaf at mine once a month. Honestly, I couldn't have scripted a better ending if I had tried. I stood, pulled out my checkbook like some weary wizard about to perform his final spell, and sighed. I'll call First National and arrange an emergency payment. But hear this clearly. This is the last mortgage payment I ever make for you. After the day, you either sink, swim, or start selling kidneys on Facebook Marketplace. Your choice. As I dialed the bank, Emma whispered to her mother, "Are we going to be okay now?" Caroline, in a rare moment of maternal confidence, said softly, "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine." For the first time in 15 years, I actually believed her, mainly because the alternative was bankruptcy, repossession, and Sheldon crying into his reheated pizza, which, admittedly, had its own appeal. Fast forward 3 months, and suddenly my dysfunctional sitcom of family was showing up to our new tradition. The monthly family meeting, Saturdays at 2 p.m. sharp. Caroline had been promoted at the grocery store. Now a proud shift supervisor, earning a dazzling $15.50 an hour. Practically royalty. Sheldon, astonishingly, had learned to balance a budget without phoning me like a lost child at a shopping center. Emma burst through the door in her football kit, grass-stained knees, a medal swinging round her neck. "Grandpa, look what I won." Wonderful, darling. Proof that someone in this family can score. Tommy followed, waving his report card full of straight A's, and a glowing teacher's note about his improved attitude. Amazing what happens when your father stops pretending money falls from trees, and your mother swaps hashtags for actual hard work. Caroline dropped a manila folder on the table like a contestant presenting receipts on a courtroom reality show. "Dad, here's this month's budget review. We've covered everything, mortgage, utilities, groceries, car payment, all from our own salaries. We even started an emergency fund. A miracle. In just 90 days, the woman who once couldn't boil an egg without ringing me now had spreadsheets. Sheldon, who once couldn't meet my eye without looking like he was about to ask for petrol money, suddenly piped up like a responsible adult. Mark, there's a potential promotion at work. Regional director. More pay, but also travel. What do you think? Well, Sheldon, I think hell just froze over, but let's roll with it. Meanwhile, I had my own tidy folder. Engineers precision naturally. Soccer fees. Paid. Piano lessons. Paid. Dental checkups. Booked. All done directly, bypassing the human cash leaks known as their parents. Caroline actually smiled at me. A genuine one. Not the forced smile of someone about to ask for 200 pounds just until payday. Dad, thank you for keeping the kids' lives stable while we figured out how to be adults. Adults? Imagine that. It only took 15 years and nearly £1 million. Then Sheldon delivered the line of the century. We completed our community service hours after the public apology letters. Volunteering at the food bank was enlightening. We met families genuinely struggling, not just, living beyond their means like we were. Oh, bravo. A standing ovation for Captain Obvious, finally discovering the concept of perspective. Then the kids handed me thank you cards. Handmade, glitter everywhere, heartfelt words. Tommy said, "Thank you for taking care of us, even when Mom and Dad forgot to say please." Emma simply said, "I love you, Grandpa. You're the best." And there it was, actual gratitude. Not rehearsed, not coerced, not hashtagged. Just real, messy, beautiful truth from two kids who finally understood love wasn't measured in BMW payments. Caroline cleared her throat. There's something else. We've been talking about maybe buying a smaller house. Something we can actually afford. Not immediately, but maybe in 2 years. Sheldon nodded. We want to prove we can stand on our own feet. Not because we don't appreciate your help, but because we respect what you've already given. For once, I didn't roll my eyes. I almost clapped. Growth. It's slow, painful, and usually accompanied by screaming, but it happens. As the evening wound down, Tommy asked a question that summed it all up. "Grandpa, are you proud of us now?" I looked at my daughter, who had learned the meaning of work, my son-in-law, who had swallowed his pride with a side of leftover pizza, and my grandchildren, who finally understood gratitude. "Yes, Tommy," I said quietly. "I'm proud of all of you." They left as the sun was setting, Emma's hand in mine, climbing into their trusty Honda. Funny thing, it no longer looked like a downgrade. It looked like wisdom on 4 wheels. And as I watched their taillights fade, I realized Martha would have been proud too. Not because I'd spent a fortune, or because I'd finally stopped playing banker, but because, at long last, respect had replaced entitlement. Love had replaced exploitation. The revenge I thought I wanted wasn't punishment at all. It was transformation. And honestly, sometimes that's the sweetest justice of all. Now, before you disappear, if you enjoyed this roller coaster of entitlement, glitter, and emotional chaos, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and click the box on the left for the next story.